Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hub. So rain, shut, hub. Rain, shut, hub is the core sentence. Okay, subject, verb, object. English is subject, verb, object, order, language. Hindi is subject, object, verb. बारिश ने बंद किया. बारिश ने हब को बंद किया. That would be the Hindi sentence. The verb goes to the end. So here everything begins with shut. So that's why there is a arc going from root to shut. Root is a fictitious node. So that is the starting node for the dependency tree. Now, who is shutting? Rain is shutting. So that's why n subject, nominal subject. Subject of shut is rain. Now, shut is a little modified, further modified by a particle. So down. You remember in constituency 3 we said shut down itself is a verb phrase. Dependency is also doing that. It is combining shut and down with a predicate called particle. Shut and down are combined together. Now, rain also is modified. The rain. So rain which has been referred to before. Okay. So the rain determiner is the predicate. Rain is strongest rain. So there is an adjective modifier. Okay. This is the whole story with the subject part of the sentence. Just like NP was a part of the sentence in constituency parsing, in dependency parsing, subject takes away a large part of the sentence. Then object takes away another part. So subject, verb, object. Under object, you have many pieces of information, just like under subject, you have many pieces of information. What is the information under subject? That the rain is a particular rain, the and rain. Adjective modifier, strongest rain. And shut itself is a complex object. It is shut down. So down is linking with uh, shut through predicate particle. What is the story under object? We see a story again unfolding there. Shut is shutting down the hub. Fine. Which hub? A particular hub. That's why determiner, the hub. Which hub? Again, financial hub. So adjective modifier, financial. Preposition of. So hub of Mumbai. So through a predicate called prep, hub is linked to of preposition, and of as a preposition takes an object Mumbai. So note this typical way of representing prepositions in dependency parsing. You link a word with the preposition through a predicate prep, and then the preposition is given an object which the preposition links with the rest of the sentence. Okay, so this is to be noted, and direct dependency parsing is another kind of parsing which is very important for natural language processing. In constituency parsing, we isolate phrases and the subphrases and sub-subphrases. In dependency parsing, we identify the subject part and object part and link them to the main verb through subject link and object link. And under subject, we unfold the internal structure of different modifiers. Okay, so strongest is a modifier for rain, and financial is a modifier for hub. Which hub? Of Mumbai. So of Mumbai is a modifier for hub. So in dependency parsing, we work with head and modifier, and in constituency parsing, we work with phrases and subphrases. So now an important question that will arise is, when such a dependency relation is given, which is the head and which is the modifier? So here shut is the head and rain is the modifier. Okay, something is being shut, so that something is coming as the modifier for shut. So do remember this way of building constituency and dependency parse trees, and all parsers, all important parsers these days give you both dependency and constituency parse trees. Dependency trees are important for free word order language, where you can take liberty with the order of the word. Ram ne Sham ko dekha, Sham ko Ram ne dekha. But Ram saw Sham is fixed for English if the semantic roles are fixed. Okay, who saw whom? If that is fixed, then you cannot change the order of the sentence normally, because the semantic role is encoded in the position of the noun with respect to the verb. Okay, so somebody verify that you are looking at a dependency parse of the sentence. You are seeing the dependency parse?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so two methods of parsing, constituency, dependency. Now we would like to slowly go into algorithms for creating such parses. We understand the language phenomenon, namely there are head and modifier, there are phrases, subphrases. We understand this phenomenon. Now how to get to that point, how to go from raw linear sequence of words to this kind of structure. So we have already discussed top-down parsing, bottom-up parsing, combined top-down, bottom-up parsing, CYK parsing. They were algorithms for creating constituency trees. Similarly, there are algorithms for creating dependency trees, which we will take up as we go ahead. Now, our main concern now is to resolve ambiguity of parsing and how to give a parse tree which is more probable than others. How to give a score. Okay. So I saw the boy with the telescope also has two dependency parses. Saw is agent, object is boy. Saw has agent as I. So this is the subject part of the sentence. And then the object part of the sentence is to the right of saw. And the boy is modified with telescope. So with telescope. So the boy has the telescope. And if I have the telescope, then saw object is boy, and with telescope is not attached to boy, it is attached to saw. So therefore, the instrument is telescope, which I am using for seeing the boy. So this dependency structure is giving the preposition to saw in preference to boy. So PP attachment has to be solved for both constituency and dependency parsing. Okay, why? Because the preposition phrase can be in one subtree in preference to another subtree. Similarly, the preposition phrase can be attached to one word in preference to another word. So there is an ambiguity which needs to be resolved from contextual clues. So we have already seen that there can be a verb-centric view of sentence with the main verb as the action and the actors are the various nouns which link with the verb. We now get to the question of probabilistic parsing. Now, in probabilistic parsing, we deal with a PCFG, probabilistic context-free grammar. So a context-free grammar consists of terminals and non-terminals. There is a special symbol called the start symbol and a set of rules which are rewrite rules. Given the left-hand side, you can rewrite it as the right-hand side, or the opposite direction, reduce rule. Given the right-hand side, you can reduce the pattern to the left-hand non-terminal. So this is the probabilistic, this is the context-free grammar. The additional thing here is a probability. Okay, we associate with every rule a probability. So here are three rules for expanding a noun phrase. Noun phrase can become determiner and noun, or noun phrase can simply be a noun, or it can be a noun phrase followed by preposition phrase. So here we are saying that noun phrase going to determiner and noun forms 20% of the corpus. And this is a statement about the language property. The language is assumed to have 20% noun phrases which are combination of determiner and noun. Okay, and these probability values are obtained from counts in the corpus. If you have a large corpus, you would have more confidence in these probability values. Now here is a probabilistic context-free grammar. S goes to NPPP, the probability is 1.0. It is 1.0 because that is the only way a sentence can be expanded. This is a part of the language phenomenon we are discussing. This is not able to handle question sentences. Do you go to movie? Or command sentences, please go to the market. Those kind of sentences are not in the purview of this grammar. Noun phrase has three ways of expansion with three different probability values. Preposition phrase has only one way of rewriting it, preposition and noun phrase. So that's a probability 1.0. Verb phrase can be expanded in two different ways, VPPP, verb phrase with a preposition phrase, and saw, this example is saw, a boy saw with telescope, for example. Okay, and VP can also be past tense and noun phrase. So these are grammar rules, and these are lexicon rules. Determinant, noun. Noun can go to gunman and building both. Actually, noun potentially can go to any noun of the language, and these probability values will go on becoming smaller and smaller in the range of 10 to the power minus 3 maybe. VBD is spread, there is only one verb in the language, and NNS there is a plural noun, bullets. So this is the grammar, and the probability values are associated with them. Understand that these probability values come from annotated corpus. The annotated corpus for parsing takes huge amount of time to create and a lot of money. You have to employ really high quality people who have keen understanding of language to create such probability values, because you have to count the occurrences in the corpus. So now let's understand this sentence and the fact that it has two parts trees. The gunman sprayed the building with bullets. That means the plausible meaning is the the gunman fired bullets into the building. So here the sentence structure you can see the gunman is the noun phrase which has the internal structure of DT and NN. The verb phrase is expanded as verb phrase and preposition phrase. There is a verb phrase sprayed the building, and preposition phrase is with bullets. So in this case, who has the bullets, the building or the gunman? So let us apply the proximity principle. We are interested in comparing proximity with gunman and proximity with building. So from gunman, if I begin traversing, 1 arc, 2 arc, 3 arc, 4 arc, 5 arc. So the preposition phrase can be reached by a path, traversing a path of length 5. What about building? I start from building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The same length. Okay, yesterday somebody was asking if the path length is same, what do you do? Okay, we are finding that the path length is same for both cases. In this case, however, the verb phrase and the preposition phrase are at the same level as and the top verb phrase is at the same level as NP. So the proximity calculation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not giving the disambiguation rule. Can't disambiguate. So that is why we need to resort to probability. Okay, what is more probable? The bullets being with the gunman or with the building? And that can come from the data, which records the frequent occurrences, frequent experiences, and that needs to be exploited in a systematic way. Let's look at the other parts that is possible. The gunman sprayed the building with bullets. In this case, the bullets is in the building. Okay, so the gunman sprayed the building with bullets. The bullets is in the building. So the building is qualified by bullets. So now let us calculate the proximity. I start with gunman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 arcs to reach PP. I start with building 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 hours to reach the building. So in this case, the proximity rule will assign bullets to building, with bullets to building, and not to gunman. So in this case, the building has the bullet. So two parses are possible, just like I saw the boy with a telescope. The attachment, there is attachment ambiguity for with bullets. Should it connect to building or should it connect to sprayed? So we are trying to find out the attachment point, and that is leading to ambiguity. Now let's calculate the probability of the two trees. We'll understand what is the meaning of probability of a tree through the concept of domination. So the probability of this sparse tree, okay, this sparse tree, which is structurally different from another sparse tree, is computed this way. Probability of T1, this tree is 1.0. Why 1.0? S goes to NPVP has probability 1.0. Now multiplied by 0.5. That is because NP goes to DTNN, it has 50% probability. So 0.5. Multiplied by DT going to that probability is 1.0. Multiplied by 0.5 because NN goes to gunmen with probability 0.5. Then we come to VP, which is expanded to VP and PP with probability 0.6. That's why multiply by 0.6. Multiplied by 0.4. What is this? VP expanded as VP, VBD, NP. 40% probability for this. This is 0.4. Then VBD goes to sprayed with 1.0. That's why 1.0. Okay. So this way we go on multiplying probabilities of rewrite rules, the expansion rules, LHS or RHS. So the parse tree is made, and all these probabilities are noted from the grammar as well as the lexical rules from the context-free grammar, and we simply multiply these probability values. Why? Why are we allowed to multiply these probability values? We have to go into some bit of theory here. So the probability of this tree, or the score for this tree, is 0.00225. The next tree, which is attaching bullets with bullets to building, here the probability is computed as 1.0 into 0.5, 1.0, etc. That probability value is 0.0015. Okay, so the parse tree which is giving bullets to building has probability 0.0015, and the parse tree which is giving bullets to the gunman has the probability 0.00225. So this probability is more than the probability of the tree which gives bullets to the building. Okay, so the gunman can have the bullets, or the building can have the bullets. The parse tree has been constructed, two parse trees have been constructed. The first parse tree has higher probability than the second parse tree. So as if the parser is semantics aware, the parser knows the meaning of the sentence and knows what is more plausible. If you are saying gunman, then automatically the intuition is to say that the gunman has the bullets. So that intuition is captured by the parse tree. Is it true? No. The parse tree, the parsing algorithm doesn't know all these fine nuances, the real life constraints, conventions. It doesn't know. All it knows is data and the count from the data. So the reality is captured in the data, and a part of that reality is transferred to the parser algorithm through probability values. Okay, so that is the role of probability. Probability records the distribution, the number of times something occurs, and that number of times something occurs is an indication of some underlying irregularity. Okay, so if a person, for example, picks up books, and we find that all the books he picks up has a majority portion of Shakespeare, work by Shakespeare, then we conclude that the person loves Shakespeare. So loving Shakespeare for this person is a reality. And how is it manifested? How is that reality manifested? That reality is manifested by the frequency of occurrence. So I take all the books that the person reads, notice the distribution, record the probabilities in the form of histograms. Books by Tagore, books by Shakespeare, books by Dickens, books by Newton, books by Darwin, scientific books, economics books, sports books, literature, pure literature, grammar books, okay, and so on. And then I draw a histogram on each book, let's say on each book. I'll find there is a peak, a very dominating peak on Shakespeare's books. So then my conclusion would be that this person loves Shakespeare. So do you notice the subtlety here and the tremendous amount of leap that we have taken? We have generalized something. We are making a comment about the property of a person. And based on what? Based on frequency. Okay, so this is a subtle, fundamental, important point. We try to capture reality by external behavior, by behavior which is in front of us, manifest behavior, and hope that what is in front of the eye is a reflection of underlying reality. Okay, you could have got the underlying reality through other means. You could have got it by psychology, by physics, by chemistry, by mineralogy, okay, by astronomy. All these are attempts at reality, capturing reality. But those are very involved, deep investigations. A first cut can be obtained by simple frequency analysis, by simple look at the distribution. Okay, so the distribution is pointing to underlying reality. So in this case, the distribution is pointing to the reality that normally gunman has bullet, and it is able to capture this because of the data. And the parser is fortunate to get representative data. How good is a machine learning algorithm? It is as good as or as bad as the data. Data dictates the model building. If the data is bad, unrepresentative, biased, model is also biased. So this is a very important topic these days in AI, how to remove the bias from data. So in this case, we can say that the data is biased towards giving the bullets to the gunman, and fortunate for it. So the probability values being different indicates that the data is so, not to say that the parser has any capability of knowing the meaning. Now we come to the question of why the probability values are multiplied. The probability values are multiplied because of the phenomenon of domination. Okay, let us understand domination. A sentence is dominated by the symbol S through domination of segments by phrases. The symbol S dominates the whole sentence. That means the sentence can be generated from S by applying rules. Please verify that you are looking at domination slide. Can you please verify?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I was audible throughout, okay, when I made these remarks about the connection between reality and distribution. So, so domination is the phenomenon that the subtree corresponding, the tree corresponding to the sentence is coming from S. In compiler or programming language terms, we say that the sentence is the yield of S. Those of you who have done programming language compilers are familiar with this term called yield. Okay, so yield is a computer science term. Domination is a linguistic term, and it is both yield and domination are used in natural language processing, which of course always combines linguistics with computation. So the sentence is dominated by symbol S through the domination of segments by phrases. So here comes the moot point, the crux of the matter. We say S dominates the whole sentence if the noun phrase and verb phrase dominate the noun phrase part of the sentence and verb phrase part of the sentence. So S dominates the whole sentence, conditioned on, okay, conditioned on NP dominating noun phrase, VP dominating verb phrase. It is obvious, but we are doing the model building. We are trying to convert English sentences into mathematical expressions. So the example is the capital of a country dominates the whole country, the capital of a state dominates the whole state, the district headquarters dominates the district, IIT Bombay is dominated by the administration of IIT Bombay, administration dominates heads of departments, the department is dominated by the head of the department. So domination by definition is a hierarchical concept. Okay, domination happens in hierarchy. And the higher level domination is possible with the success of the domination of lower levels. Okay, so the administration of the country can run the country if the administration of states, administration of districts function properly. So, so when it comes to domination and its utility in NLP and parsing, we come back to this example again. I saw a boy with a telescope. I saw a boy with a telescope. And let's see the domination possible on this sentence and different ways of domination, which is what will give rise to the structural ambiguity. So S goes to NP, NP goes to noun is I. So S dominates the whole sentence through the domination of NP dominating I, the first word, and the domination of VP dominating rest of the sentence. Saw a boy with a telescope. Now how is VP dominating? Through a verb which dominates saw, through an NP which dominates a boy, through a PP which dominates with a telescope. Okay, these three different dominations are happening. The domination will change when we change the parse tree. In this case, the boy has the, in this case, the verb saw has the telescope. The PP attachment happens to saw. Now, a different domination happens for the other tree. If this PP comes under NP here, now PP is coming under VP. If PP comes under NP here, then you see the domination picture has changed. So Jyotsna, please have a slide to show the difference in the domination picture. In this case, the domination was happening through three entities: saw dominated by VP, a boy dominated by NP, with a telescope dominated by a PP. Now if the PP gets attached to boy, so PP will come under NP, then a full noun phrase will dominate a boy with a telescope. Full noun phrase. In the other case, NP and PP side by side will dominate two different territories in the text segment, a boy with a telescope. So a boy with a telescope will have two dominators, NP and PP, two kings, two rulers, you can say. One ruler is ruling over a boy, the other ruler is ruling over with a telescope. If with a telescope gets attached to the boy, then one single noun phrase dominates over a boy with a telescope. So this ambiguity needs to be resolved. Okay, who dominates how much of the territory? That is the main intuition behind probabilistic parsing. Let me repeat this point. The main intuition behind probabilistic parsing is resolving the uncertainty of which non-terminal dominates how much territory in the sentence. You look upon the whole sentence as a complete territory. the sub-territories are dominated by different non-terminals. And this domination is also called yield. Okay, in this case, the yield of PP is with a telescope. The yield of the large VP is saw a boy with a telescope. So this is to be resolved now with probability. Why with probability? It is very difficult to give rules. Okay, it is very difficult to give rules as to under what condition a whole word phrase will dominate a saw a boy with a telescope, and under what condition will PP go under VP, NP. So NP is dominating PP. PP is dominating P and NP. NP is dominating a telescope. So there is a percolation of domination from higher level to lower level. Now let us bring in probability to capture this intuition. So here is the probabilistic formulation. So just verify that you are seeing a tree on the screen. Probability of a parse tree. Can somebody please verify?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So S1 to L, this lower subscript shows the sentence starts at 1, beginning of the sentence, to L, the end of the sentence. Noun phrase goes from 1 to 2. Verb phrase goes from 3 to L. A verb goes from 3 to 3. That is the W, the word at position 3. A preposition goes from 4 to 4. W44. A noun phrase goes from 5 to L. Okay, and there is a W at 5. So this way of giving lower suffixes for the starting point and the ending point is very crucial for parsing algorithms. You will remember it from bottom-up parsing especially, and then later CYK parsing. Okay, so then we begin to formulate the probability. The probability of the tree, given the sentence is composed of the joint probability of noun phrase, determiner, word, noun, word, verb phrase, verb, word, preposition phrase, preposition, word, noun phrase, word. So S is dominating all these entities because all of them come under S. So S can dominate the whole sentence, okay, if the domination of the phrases is true. So the probability of the parse tree given the sentence is nothing but joint probability of all the all the non-terminals given S. Okay, so the tree given S is nothing but joint probability of all these non-terminals given S. And why joint? Joint because all these dominations are happening together. They must all happen together. Now we begin to apply independence assumptions. So probability of NP dt is NPVP is isolated from rest of the non-terminals conditioned on S. Okay, you have to note this formulation carefully. This joint probability is first broken up by chain rule. We isolate NP and VP because that rule is given to us. NP, VP given S. The probability of that we know from the probabilistic context-free grammar. So when we do that, then we concentrate on probability of DTN given NP. I can do that because now NP and VP, they come on the conditioning part along with S. And I make an independence assumption that DTN depends only on NP. It doesn't depend on VP or S. This way, lots of independence assumptions are made, and we are able to convert the probability of tree into product of probabilities of rule applications. Okay, this is how it happens. Now, what are those independence assumptions? There are three independence assumptions: place invariance, That is, the probability of rule doesn't change from position to position. Wherever you apply that rule, the probability remains same. Context freeness, the probability of a rule conditioned on anything outside the rule remains the same. This is called context freeness. That means the probability is not affected by sibling probabilities or what is happening in the neighborhood. Ancestor freeness is the probability of the rule is not affected by the ancestor, okay, in the tree. So when you apply these three independence assumption, these three assumptions, then you are allowed to compute the probability of the parsed tree as product of probabilities of rules. Okay, so that you can see happening here. I first take probability of NPBP given S, and I have the probability as 1.0. Now multiply it by probability of DTN given NP. Here you should have VP and S also by the chain rule of probability. But because of the ancestor freeness assumption, S gets dropped because S is the ancestor of NP. And VP also gets dropped because of the context freeness assumption. VP is the sibling of NP. So DTN is completely determined by NP and nothing else. So that's how you can drop those other conditioning variables. So this way, if you go on applying the ancestor freeness, context freeness, and place invariance, you are able to see that the probability of a parsed tree is nothing but the product of the rules. And that is a very important theoretical advancement in NLP. Okay, the fact that the probability of a parsed tree can be computed from the probability of the rules applicable is a very important advancement in natural language processing.
Safe or safe beta?
Maybe he's asking about the application to be used for the quiz.
Oh,
So-
we use safe.
this is
What
about
about
safe.
safe
Okay.
beta?
Okay.
Parth, can you clarify this, please?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think Parth is here, but let's go on to the next question with regards to the lecture.
So tell everybody once again that you will be using safe.
Yeah, we'll be using the Safe app, and I don't think I even know about the beta app. So we have only installed the default Safe app available on the Play Store, and you are requested to do the same. Mohammad Ali Rihan asks if with bullets is part of PP under VP, then it must describe how the verb was done by the gunman. So why the ambiguity?
I don't think I understand the question.
So if the phrase
Hmm.
with bullets
Hmm.
is part of PP under VP, then
Hmm.
it must describe how the verb was done by the gunman.
Okay.
So why the ambiguity here?
Oh, how the work was done by gunmen is a much higher level task. It comes much later in the NLP pipeline. So up to parsing, all the information that you have is morphology, part of speech, and chunk. Okay, and also the parse tree. So or rather, let me say that only lower level information, morphological information, pause information, and chunk information. So how the verb is done is a question of semantics and also pragmatics. So you notice here sprayed is a metaphorical usage. Sprayed says that too many bullets were fired into the building. It was as if the building wall was covered with bullets. So normally one sprays paint or sprays water, sprays a liquid. But here there were so many bullets that it gave an impression of painting the whole wall with bullets. So this is a metaphorical use. So that's a part of how the action was performed. But this comes really much after parsing, even passes through semantics and pragmatics. So, so really you cannot do more than what is available to you as information through pause, chunk, and parse. So,
Sir,
have I
I
answered
had
your question?
the sir, I had the doubt actually in the constituency parsing trees that you showed for the sentence. The gunman sprayed the building with bullets. So
Okay.
there there were two trees. Yeah,
Yes.
but and then we use the rule of proximity. But why is that rule necessary? Because with like the PP10 is coming under VP06. So we know it must be associated with gunman and not the
Oh,
building because the
oh, oh.
NP05 is coming much further.
I see, I see. Good, good. So since it is already under NP, then hmm. So already under, I was trying to explain already under. So you're right. If there is a rule that a structure is coming under another NP, there is a stronger binding with that particular word. You're right. Now, why that stronger binding? That why question is many times answered by path length. But you are absolutely right that the structure itself is sufficient to say who has the bullets. Yeah.
The next question is by Shreya. In the
Hmm.
last class, we had taken the distance from saw verb,
Hmm. Hmm.
but here we are taking distance from only nouns. What should be the approach for correct analysis?
Oh, acha, acha. Okay, you're right. You're right. Actually, you're right. I think it was my mistake to start counting from gunmen. No, we did not do that for I. We started from saw. So here also, I think the proximity rule will be all right. Sprayed, one arc, two arc, three arc, four arc. So four arcs. And building, one, two, three, four, five. So building has path length of 5, sprayed has path length of 4, just like saw the boy with the telescope. So I stand corrected. Thank you for pointing, Shreya. Should have started with sprayed.
Uh, Nargis has a question. The parser learns from probabilities which come from data.
Hmm.
HMM tool learns from data in pause tagging.
Hmm.
Where and how does artificial intelligence come into play in NLP?
So, so this question has been asked for since 1960s. Okay, so this is a very classical question. Comes almost every day, every year, every week. So where is the intelligence? Now, artificial intelligence has what is called a risk shifting horizon. You uh, you win one milepost, then another milepost appears in the distance. So if you are learning things from data where the probability values are obtained by a very fixed procedure of ratio of counts, and if the model is learning based on the probability, there is an algorithm, let's say CYK algorithm, and the probability values are used to give a ranking to the parsers. What is intelligent about it? So this question has been asked exactly in this form for last 50, 60 years for artificial intelligence. So the answer lies in the fact that the intelligence is in the combination. Okay, the combination of data, combination of machine learning, combination of probability, algorithm, and the problem itself. So intelligence is in the problem specification. Intelligence is in the way the problems are picked up. You see that I am not sorting a set of numbers, but I am trying to parse a sentence which will ultimately lead me to deciphering the meaning. So a lot of intelligence is in the problem statement. This question is very difficult to answer. Okay, I think maybe you will have a realization as we go through the course.
The final question is by Muhammad Ali Rihan. With regards to PCFG, the assumptions imply the probability of a rule is a constant throughout the model, right?
Yeah, right. This is true. These probabilities are frozen. They are obtained from the data. Data decides the quality of the machine learning model. Okay, and therefore these values are fixed. So if you're asking this interesting question, can these probability values get modified as the system is learning? Okay, so the probability values get modified by new data. When new evidences come, the probability values shift in one direction or another. Now, can a machine learning model uh, modify the probability as it goes along? So these things go into the domain of active learning, okay, transfer learning. So though then meta learning. So those are the subjects which deal with this question at least indirectly.
Sir, one
Okay.
final question has just come up. We can please have some tutorial problems to practice questions.
Acha, before the quiz. Is it
Uh,
before the quiz?
that's not specified, but I think they want some tutorial problems or tutorial sessions specifically.
Okay, can you verify, is it tutorial session or tutorial problems?
They,
Can you
uh,
ask the person who asked him?
Rishi and the people who have upvoted the questions, what was your intention? So they say not really before the quiz. In general, can we have some tutorial problems to practice questions?
Problems, not sessions, right?
No, not sessions.
Sessions, okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so we'll finish the class today. Thank you.